We are going to be starting a grid drawing artwork. Grid drawing is a method of being able to draw something from a photograph or image reference by transferring the image square by square. So you are going to need an 8 by 10 photo. Hopefully I've already printed that out for you, or you found a resource reference photo that you want to use in our resource images folder. If not, you can let me know. So you will need your 8 by 10 photo and a transparency, which is the shiny plastic sheet, has a grid printed on it with A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the side. You're going to grab a couple pieces of tape and you're going to line that grid on the transparency up on the top of your photograph, okay? It hangs off a little bit, but you want to make sure these lines are right around the border of your photograph. And then you're going to take your piece of tape and just put the tape at the front and wrap it around to the back so that it's sticking to your paper. And I'm going to add one to the top and one to the bottom so that I make sure that my photo and transparency aren't going to come apart. And these are going to be left together until you finish your drawing, okay? So this is giving you the ability to look at the photo in little squares or a grid. And you're going to be drawing square by square to create the image. So the next thing you're going to need is you're also going to need a paper version of the grid. Looks like this. It's on a white piece of paper. You need one of these and the plastic one and your photo. And then you're going to be getting the paper that you're going to be drawing onto. With your paper grid, you're going to get a 9 by 12 white sheet of paper. 9 by 12 is bigger than the grid. That's okay. I want you to center your grid on the back side of your paper. You should be able to see the grid through. I know it's very hard to see. And center it where you want your image to go. So I'm going to center it about like that. I can see through there. I have about that much space at the top and about the same at the bottom. So I'm going to flip my papers over and I'm going to add a couple pieces of tape. So again, my grid is not going to come off. And again, the grid is under your white piece of paper because we want to be able to transfer the image but not have to add the grid. So I'm just adding a piece of tape there and a piece of tape there. And then I'm going to flip my paper back over to prepare to draw. All right, we're going to start to transfer. So you have your transparency grid with your photo, and you have your 9 by 12 white paper with your grid worksheet taped to the back of it. And now we're going to start to go through box by box. So I'm going to look at this box first where his ear is, this 1A box, 1A. And I'm going to start to draw that. We're going to start the grid drawing by looking at the boxes. So right now I'm looking in the 1A box and I am mapping out the shape of the ear before I come over to my white paper and I get ready. Now you need to pay attention to how far it comes down on the line so that I know where to start. So I put a little dash mark so I could see where it goes. And now I'm going back to my photo to try to figure out how far over and how far down the ear needs to go. So I'm just looking over here, looking at the gap between the edge of the square and the ear so that I kind of can see how big it is before it starts that curve. If you want, it can be helpful to use a ruler as well and just see how big it is on the ruler so that you can come over to your paper and use the ruler as well. So I went ahead and measured it and I'm marking where the curve in the ear goes. And then I'm going to get ready to connect those lines or those little dashes that I added there now that I know kind of where it starts and how it slopes down and where it needs to go. Before I do that, I'm going to measure from the top of the square down to where the ear curve is so that I know right about where it needs to be. And of course you can attempt this without a ruler. It really helps if you can actually see the distances. So now I'm going to sketch it in. Remember, you're drawing as lightly as you possibly can, because if you don't and you need to erase and edit, you're going to end up with really dark lines left on your paper even after you erase, or you can have indents in your paper even after you erase. So sketch as lightly as you can, and remember, sketching means little lines that all connect to make the line you're looking for. So you're not trying to draw one continuous line on your paper, you're just doing little tiny lines. All right, now I'm moving into a much more difficult box where I'm going to map in the top of the head. And my head's cut off here, but I probably will finish it off. I'm going to figure out where the ear goes, and I'm going to map that. And you can see I'm measuring again, seeing how far. And it doesn't matter if you know the measurements as long as you can just mark at which line it was at. So now I know where that curve in the ear goes. And again, sketching very, very lightly. And I'm stopping. I know my ear continues on, but I'm sticking to just my one square. I don't want to go beyond each square. Don't try to look at it as a whole dog's head or whatever you're drawing. Just look at it square by square. What lines and shapes do I need to create in just this one square? If you go square by square, you can end up with almost an identical image, but you have to go square by square. This eye is going to be pretty hard, so I would definitely come in and measure out this to see how big the eye is so that I get the right proportion. Proportion is this size relationship between objects, so I don't want the eye to be bigger than the ear, for example. They all need to be mapped out so that I can put them in correctly and have the correct size body parts. So I'm just taking the time to measure how far the eye needs to be up in the square. I'm going to measure it from each side. I'm also going to measure the length of the eye so that I can see how big the eye needs to be. Then I'm going to try my very best to sketch it out very lightly. And again, even though I mapped it out here, I still need to be referencing my photo and really looking to see what it looks like as I attempt to draw it. So you're just going to continue through all of the squares, and by the end you should end up with an image that looks very similar to the photograph that you're starting from. Remember that you're going very, very, very slowly and only square by square, sketching as lightly as you can so that you can make changes. Things are going to be off and you are going to have to erase, so draw very lightly. And I'm going to be circulating and helping as I can, but please go very, very slowly. You are not in a rush and you have plenty of time to get this done.